Today, we're diving into something that might just be the ultimate toolkit for modern leaders. We're talking about philosophy and how some seriously ancient wisdom can help us solve some of today's biggest, toughest management challenges.
So let's just start with a big question. In a business world that is absolutely obsessed with data, with metrics, with quarterly reports, does it ever just feel like something's missing? I mean, we have more information than ever before, but we're still wrestling with burnout, with strategic blind spots, and with finding truly groundbreaking innovation. What if the answer isn't in another spreadsheet? What if it's been waiting for us in centuries of human wisdom?
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to pinpoint that missing ingredient. Then, we'll tap into some ancient wisdom from modern strategy and completely rethink how we approach people. After that, we'll look at building an ethics framework that's more than just a rulebook, and we'll even learn how to deconstruct innovation. Finally, we'll put it all together and define what it means to be a manager-philosopher.
So, what is missing? Well, it's our obsession with only what we can measure. We are fantastic at tracking clicks and sales and productivity numbers, but in doing that, we so often lose sight of the things that really drive success in the long run. It's time to go beyond just the data and start searching for real wisdom.
I mean, think about it. So much of traditional management is built on this foundation of quantitative analysis. And look, financial metrics are absolutely crucial. Nobody's denying that. But what our source material points out is that they often completely miss these deeper dimensions. Things like your company culture, your ethical backbone, your true long-term vision that are every bit as critical for success.
And the solution, as this quote from our source Philosophy and Management puts it, is to take a much more holistic approach. It's about a kind of leadership that isn't just data-driven, but is also morally upright, is forward-thinking. It's leadership that has sagacity, honesty, and a real sense of anticipation.
And just so you know, these ideas are coming from a really credible academic source published by Routledge. And what's really cool is, thanks to their open access initiative, all this knowledge is out there and available to everyone.
Okay, so how do we actually apply any of this? Let's start with strategy. And this isn't about being academic or getting lost in old books. It's about finding these timeless ideas that can give you a real competitive edge, right here, right now.
We've all been there, right? You have to make a huge, high-stakes decision, and the pressure is just crushing. Maybe the market is tanking, a key project is going off the rails, or a competitor just made a move you never saw coming. Your emotions are running high, and finding any kind of clarity feels impossible. So what do?
Well, the ancient Greeks and Romans had a seriously powerful framework for exactly this situation: Stoicism. Now, at its heart, Stoicism is about a really simple but profound idea. We cannot control what happens around us, but we have absolute control over how we choose to respond. And what's crucial here is that this isn't about suppressing your emotions or becoming a robot. It's about channeling that energy rationally to make calm, clear-headed decisions.
The Stoic philosopher Epictetus just nailed this idea with what he called the dichotomy of control. Think about how much energy we waste worrying about things we have zero power over. The economy, what our competitors are doing, a global crisis. The Stoic approach says, stop that. Redirect all of that energy to the one thing you can control, your own response.
So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, a Stoic manager first separates what they can't control from what they can. Step 2, they identify the specific actions and choices that are actually in their power. 3, they pour all their energy into a rational and virtuous response, one that's guided by wisdom and courage. And finally, number 4, they accept the outcome. It doesn't matter if it's a win or a loss, it's a chance to learn, which makes them that much more resilient for the next challenge.
Okay, so we've looked at strategy. Now let's shift our focus to the absolute heart of any organization. It's people. How can philosophy help us completely rethink things like HR and employee engagement?
Here is another one of those universal challenges for managers. You offer competitive salaries, great benefits, you've got the cool office with the free snacks, but engagement is still just flat. So how do we create a workplace where people feel genuinely motivated, fulfilled, and truly connected to what they're doing?
For this, we can turn to humanism. This is a philosophy that puts the individual person right at the center of everything. Thinkers you may have heard of, like Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow, they champion this idea that every single person has an inherent dignity, worth, and this deep-seated drive for personal growth and becoming their best self. And this leads to a really profound shift in perspective. As our source material points out, a humanist approach means we have to stop seeing employees as resources, like cogs in a machine, and start seeing them as whole people.
every one of them with their own unique dreams and potential contributions.
When you do this, you create a way more effective approach to engagement. Instead of just throwing perks at people, you prioritize their genuine well-being. You build a culture that's founded on deep, mutual respect. You invest in real opportunities for people to grow, not just professionally, but personally too. And maybe the most important thing of all, you really try to connect the work people are doing every day to a larger purpose and to their own values.
Okay, let's move on to a really tricky one, ethics. It's one thing to have a rule book, but how do you build a culture of true integrity?
We've all seen this movie before, right? A company has a super thick code of conduct, they run the annual compliance training, and they check every single box. But then, when a real ethical dilemma hits, the culture just completely fails the test. The rulebook approach often misses the entire point. It's about compliance, not conviction.
So to build a stronger foundation, we can look to deontology, a theory that's most famously linked to the philosopher Immanuel Kant. Deontology is all about duty. It basically argues that certain actions are just fundamentally right or wrong, period. It's not about the outcome, it's about the principle behind the action itself.
This slide makes the difference really clear. It contrasts deontology with another common framework, utilitarianism. Now, utilitarianism is all about the result, what will create the greatest good for the greatest number of people. But deontology focuses on the why. An action is judged based on the principle. So for a deontological leader, lying to a client isn't wrong just because you might get caught. It's wrong because honesty is a fundamental duty. The why is what matters most.
Okay, let's tackle one of the biggest buzzwords in all of business, innovation. How can we use philosophy not just to innovate, but to see those disruptive opportunities that everyone else seems to miss completely? It's the classic innovator's dilemma, isn't it? I mean, think about Kodak. They were a giant that literally invented the first digital camera, but somehow failed to capitalize on it. Or Blockbuster, which owned home video but was completely blindsided by streaming. These were smart companies, run by smart people. So why did they miss the future?
Well, for a really radical answer, we can turn to the postmodern philosopher Jacques Derrida and his idea of deconstruction. Now, stick with me here. This isn't about destroying things. It's a critical tool for taking apart the ideas and assumptions that we all just take for granted. It's about questioning the very foundation of the way things have always been done, so you can see all the hidden biases and flawed structures.
And this is a perfect example of deconstruction in action. Blockbuster ran on a set of core assumptions. Their business was about renting physical objects, late fees were a key way to make money, and their physical stores were essential. Netflix came along and deconstructed every single one of those. They realized the business was about access to content, not physical objects. They saw late fees as customer friction, not a profit center, and they knew the real channel wasn't a store, it was the customer's home. And that's how they saw the future. So we've got Stoicism for strategy, humanism for people, deontology for ethics, and deconstruction for innovation. Now it's time to bring all these incredible tools together and define a whole new kind of leadership. Now, the goal here isn't to turn every manager into an academic philosopher sitting in an ivory tower. No, it's about cultivating a mindset. It's about becoming a manager-philosopher, a leader who uses these powerful mental models to navigate all the complexity of the modern world with wisdom and with clarity.
And here it is, your practical toolkit. You've got Stoicism for resilience when the pressure is on. You have humanism for building real, genuine connection and engagement with your team. You have deontology to ground all of your decisions in a strong ethical core. Deconstruction to challenge old assumptions and find those breakthrough ideas. And, as our source also points out, the Socratic method of relentless questioning to build a culture where everyone is always learning.
This final quote from the source really just sums up our entire journey today. True excellence in management goes way beyond the spreadsheet. It's about a deep understanding of human behavior, of ethics, and of the principles that create lasting value. It's really about leading with wisdom.
And all of this brings us to one final question for you to think about. After exploring all these powerful ideas, just take a moment. What are the principles that truly guide your decisions and your leadership style? What is your management philosophy?